All right, and we're live. Welcome to Late Night at the Movies, episode 1.
Nice.
All right. So, yeah, if you couldn't tell from the intro music, everybody, this is the first episode of our movie review show where we rewatch older movies that we both enjoy and come back and kind of pick them apart, do a deeper dive discussion on it. And this first episode, we're doing The Departed. JT, how's it going?
Good. Great movie.
Yeah.
Had to throw that Irish drinking tune in the beginning.
Yeah, that's the song that they kind of kick off the start of the movie there as well when Leo finally gets put in as a undercover in that whole operation, right? So, but yeah, so this movie directed by Martin Scorsese. I'm a big Martin Scorsese fan. This was not the first movie that him and Leo did together because I think they did Aviator before this.
I think there was another one before.
Yeah,
but not too crazy right away, right yet, right? Yeah, no shit. Hey, what's up, Rob?
What's going on, Rob? They worked together I think once or twice prior to this, but this is definitely like his version of I don't want to say it's like Goodfellas because it's not, but it's definitely more in that vein of the Scorsese films. You know what I mean? So like I think Leo being in this and having that sort of this huge, first off, great cast, fantastic fucking
Awesome
cast.
One of the what do you call it? Star-studded. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also it's not like a New York thing. This is a Boston movie, right? So a little bit different than some of the other things that Scorsese has done. And not only that, one of Jack Nicholson's last movies that he worked on, right? He did a few things after this, but this, when I looked up his IMDb, this was probably like, I think it was like this and like The Bucket List. Like this is one of those ones where one of the last movies that I really enjoyed him in, I think, for that time period.
It's all out. Like they didn't mess around. It was just an all out. And you know what's funny too is that it wasn't he wasn't an actual main character. He was still considered a supporting role in that one.
Who, Jack Nicholson?
Jack Nicholson, yeah.
Well, yeah, because he's behind Leo, he's behind Damon. So, like, in a sense, yeah, he definitely was a supporting role, which is crazy, though, because we'll get into it. And I think he's fantastic in this film. But anyway, so format's going to be a little bit different for this show, guys, than normally what we do. We've done this. We talked about it before. We've reviewed a couple of movies on our late night chat show before on our normal podcast. But we figured we'd do something outside of that to kind of have an hour and a half dedicated to just kind of picking the movie apart and kind of discussing like a film, kind of doing like a deep dive. Because sometimes on the show we mentioned quickly things. Yeah, well, good point. This is also this is also a show that we're gonna start going back and rewatching films that we both enjoy and talking about them. So that's the point of this movie review podcast, YouTube
Yeah,
show is
tell
to.
him,
What's that?
tell him. He's fucking. You know what? This is a great movie. It's almost 20 years old.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really more so to discuss things that we have enjoyed in the past and give us a reason to rewatch them, right, and kind of talk about them. So
Yeah,
so yeah, that is the point of this. And like I said, we talked about we did this our test run. I don't know, a bunch of episodes of Shawshank Redemption. We talked about, and
yeah.
when The Irishman came out, we kind of dedicated an episode of the podcast to doing that review as well. Another great Scorsese flick. So so look for these. I don't know at this point if we're going to bring them out in any sort of regularity, but me and Jay have already discussed our next film.
Yeah.
I do need to watch that. Yes, I know. I fucking said I was going to watch it like a week or so ago. It's still sitting there. This is apparently a fantastic show I need to watch, Jay. So I need to check that out.
What is
I
it
own
again? Band of
Ben.
Brothers.
Yeah, I own it. I own it. So
Which one is that one again? That's not one about war.
yeah.
Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's yeah, so that's it's a show that was on HBO, right? So
Yeah. No, I've never really been into war stuff, but yeah, I know what I remembered what it is. I don't know why. I just
maybe I could convince. Maybe Peter should come on if we end up. Maybe we can both watch the show, all three of us, and then he'll come on to discuss it with us because it'll be my first time seeing it. Peter's watched it like 20 times, so
yeah, of course.
so.
You know, Mr. Army Man.
But yeah, so I guess we'll get into it. So we kind of we broke this up into categories. We'll openly talk about the movie as well, but there's categories that we kind of set out to discuss while we kind of talk about this movie, and that'll be the setup for any of these episodes that we do. And me and Jay have already got our next movie lined up. See, there you go. You watched it twice last week. We've already got our next movie lined up here for you guys that we've us doing for the next one. So I look forward to doing that. So it'll be good. It'll give people reason to check out the movie again as well, or watch it for the first time and come here and discuss it with us, right? So so there's a bunch of different categories. We'll kind of we'll make our way through the categories as we get into it here now. And shouts out to the Rewatchables podcast that I listened to and got the idea for some of these categories from. So, and you know, a lot of these categories I've seen on other kind of movie podcasts and things reviews before as well too. Some of them aren't as that original as you would think, but shouts out to them for sure because they were definitely the inspiration behind getting some of these categories down. So
Some of those categories too are, with the way you had the question, I was just trying to figure out what you meant by them. I know they were like certain ones that, you get best quote, best this, like certain things, but then you had what ifs and what, recap. Those were fucking me up.
yeah,
Like I know what they are, but it's like, fuck, man. Really?
yeah. Yeah.
Those aren't easy ones. Some of them aren't easy ones.
Well, that's the thing too.
I think it's the wording.
Well, that's the thing too. And I kind of, without fucking jacking the name of the category from the show 100% as well, I didn't want to call them the same things that whatever they called them. So sometimes it's hard to describe what the thing was, the category was, without giving it, you know what I mean, some ridiculous name. So we'll have to, we'll have to create our own shit as we go on, as we get into it, right? But I think as having the framework for that for our first episode works pretty well, right? So anyways, okay, so we'll get into it. So it's a let's get some and I'm sure I'll be more prepared as we continue to do this show because I'll learn how to prepare better for these once we get into it. But I'm just gonna bring up the IMDb here for this movie. There's my cheat sheet here.
There's a lot of stuff.
What's your history with this movie, Jay?
I think I just watched it. I like Jack Nicholson films, and I mean, I like those top three in the beginning. Jack Nicholson, Matt Damon, and what's his face there, Leonardo. So I mean, it was just a good choice of myself to think of, that's a good movie to watch. They're honestly probably three of the best actors, three of the top actors in Hollywood at their times,
Hmm.
if not of all times.
Right.
Right? I mean, uh, so it was great to see them in that sort of star-studded cast, right?
Hmm.
Especially with a guy like Martin Scorsese directing it there. You know,
Yeah.
he's
So
got a lot of neat little fucking nitpicks and stuff
mhm.
like that. Like you can figure out things that he always likes to put in his films. You know, so
Yeah.
it's something that I always thought they played their roles well, those characters, and the directors were good at portraying the time, the not just on this movie, but any of those types of Scorsese, Jack Nicholson movies.
Hmm.
I think he's good at the time frame, the whole. This one's I think loosely based on another crime story, another uh, what's it called, Whitey Bulger, like the one that
Yeah.
uh, what's his
Johnny
name
Depp.
did with the huge
Yeah.
fucking mullet.
I didn't like that
Yeah,
movie, to be honest with you. I felt I didn't like that one, but it was okay.
I was trying to grow my mullet like that one actually, but it didn't work. I was gonna start from here, like from here back or whatever it is. Fuck, from here back. That would have been a mullet for you, buddy.
So yeah, this is
But no,
directed by Scorsese, screenplay by it says here William Monahan and Alan Mack and Felix Chong. So a bunch of people I'm not as familiar with, but Scorsese directed it, and it definitely he brought his touch to this movie. Like you can definitely tell that it was a Scorsese film, despite the you know what I mean? Like it still was like kind of a gangster movie, but at the same time, it was interesting because you also saw a bit of the cop's perspective in this one as well. It was a
yeah,
Boston crime story thing, which Boston movies pretty awesome. I like a lot of the Boston crime story type movies. Like I said, we discussed the town, which most people say is the superior film out of these two. And if you're gonna go Boston kind of these crime kind of story films. I know a lot of people I've heard that have talked about this film before cringe at some of the Boston accents in this film. Apparently, some of them weren't that good because everyone's trying to bust it out in this film, and not everybody can do it, right? I mean, you got people that are from there, that have roots there, that can do the accent, like your what do you call it? That's in here, Mark Wahlberg, right? And I think Damon as well, right? Isn't he from I think Boston as well? Like that's the whole reason that him and
yeah.
um,
I think they're the two closest
Affleck,
acts that
Affleck, or
pull out.
yeah, that's what I mean. So like some of them you could tell they could do it, others not so much, and I think it showed a bit, and I think that was bothersome for some people. For me, I just think it's a funny accent to begin with, so I think I had no problems with it, right? So I don't know, I I could definitely see like some people were overacting a bit at times in this, and we'll get into that, but we actually have an award for that one, and this is a pretty big one in this movie. This is for me.
There's a few
Yeah,
of them that could be really overacting there.
I had a close tie, but I had to give it. Yeah, the town is also awesome. That was originally the movie I had mentioned we should do. But Jay couldn't remember if he had seen it or not at the time. So I was like, okay, well, how about The Departed? Because I guess I was thinking of that whole Boston mindset at that point, right? So um, that's what we ended up deciding. And again, I'm a big Scorsese fan, and Jay is too, as far as we know, right? So
Yeah,
um, yeah, so we ended up deciding on this one, right? But we can definitely do the town at some point as well. Okay, so yeah, like we said, Leo's in this, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Mark Wahlberg, Martin Sheen.
yeah,
This woman who is in she's in a lot of things. I don't know her by name normally. Vera Farmiga. She's the woman, the girlfriend of Damon in this. She went on to do that show where she was the mother of Psycho there. She was in that show, wasn't she? Wasn't she the mother in that show? The show about Norman Bates Motel.
no, not the same lady.
Is it not the same lady? Are you sure?
I don't think so. It didn't look like her. It threw me off. It is also 15 years ago, so it might
Yes,
be.
it's her. It's her.
Oh, I thought her was Betty something. I didn't know.
No, this she's no, she's
That's the one from what's it called then? Sopranos, isn't it? That's the same lady.
no, no,
I'm getting
no,
them
you're
confused.
thinking the Nurse Betty woman. That's somebody else. That's not her.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Nurse Betty woman.
That's not her. This isn't her in this film. That's Vera Farmiga.
Yeah. Okay, but who are you comparing? Who are you saying it?
She
Where
was
she's
the
from?
mother in the Bates Motel show.
Oh yeah, they're similar too. Yeah, they are. They do look
That's
similar.
her. No,
Sorry, I
it's
just
her.
looked it up.
I looked it up. Yeah.
No, I got the pad here too now,
You're
so I'm
thinking of
kind of looking.
Lorraine Bracco. That's who you're thinking of, right? For the Nurse Betty person,
Yeah.
but she wasn't in that show. This person was. She was up in the Air with George Clooney. That was a good film. So she's been in. She has some big credits after this movie. At the time of this movie, I don't know if she or her career was that if she had done that much, or at least not much that I knew of. Alec Baldwin's in this. Yeah,
in 2006.
Anthony Anderson, who small part, important part in this film, but also important. A small part at this point in time, right? So I don't think, again, same thing. He was earlier in his career when he did this.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, see, it was Rob's agreeing. It's the same woman. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just confused them a little bit. That's all. Because if you look at the picture on the IMDb, it kind of looks like they're similar. If you really do. I mean,
so let's get into the categories, shall we? My history with this movie is, I saw it when it originally came out. Big fan of Scorsese, big fan of this movie. I know if you're going to compare it to everything else in Scorsese's filmography, if you're going to compare it to everything else, I think it ranks lower than a lot of his other films, but I still really enjoy this. And this is one of those movies that if I see it on TV, I end up getting sucked into it and watching it. Like if I catch it on TV randomly, it's one that I end up probably sitting down and watching for the rest of the film if I can, right at that point. So, yeah, it's definitely one that I've seen numerous times. I've seen it, I don't know, like 10 times at least, right? I've watched this movie. So
I don't know if I've gotten into it that much.
Yeah.
Maybe just because it's so long, and every time I see it, you might get sucked into like an hour of it if you've already watched it. That's how I find it. I mean, it's not like I also don't watch it on cable and stuff like that too, so I don't get to see it as often, right?
Right. Okay, so let's get into it. You want to start off with best scenes in the movie?
Oh, dude, we can go with a lot. We can have there's a shitload of best scenes, I think, in this movie.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest ones to pick when it comes to what I like, because I think to be honest with you, almost every scene with Jack Nicholson is to pick one or two. It'd be hard, man. But I really honestly believe that Jack Nicholson, his scenes, anything that had hit. Well, you know what? I also had it was a toss up kind of between the Jack Nicholson and when Mark Wahlberg and Alec Baldwin were together. Whenever guys were in a role, because whenever those guys in an actual scene, But I think I like the best scene I think I like in this movie personally is the one where they're in the bar, him and Leonardo there, DiCaprio there. They were in the bar, him and Billy, and they were trying to figure out when he says he smells a rat.
Yes.
And he does that whole thing, and then you figure out what you kind of put it all. I mean, I don't know word for word right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was trying to about the rat.
Yeah, a great scene. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. he's like doing like this smell. Yeah.
Yeah, and it reminds me of just like when he did those crazy scenes in The Shining, and whenever he has, even when he was a Joker, those kind of stupid little scenes when he did those. He's good at that, right?
Yeah,
he's good at making memorable scenes.
Here, I got the clip pulled up here for everybody here. So we're playing some of these things on YouTube where you can find some of these clips. So I actually also have that scene written down here as one of my favorite scenes. So yeah, let's give it a look here. 1 second. No, I don't think that was made up for the character. I think he's like, come on, guy.
I think he did it. I think he overdid it on purpose.
No, I can't argue. Like I said, I was going between those two. So I'm glad you picked Alec Baldwin because I picked Wahlberg for that, because I thought Wahlberg was just over the top too. But yeah.
And I think Wahlberg can pull off a better accent. I think his accent he was over pulling. Like he was doing overboard with it.
No, but Wahlberg is from like like from
He's
there. So
from
like
like from Boston. Yeah,
well,
he's born and raised. No,
that's what I'm trying to say. So I think like he was doing. I think what makes it sound like he's almost overdoing the accent is him like doing a deep like actual like accent like that he
like
probably would you know what I mean, like people have there, right, like some of them.
like
So like
I think a couple of the mobster guys actually had that deep sort of hardcore.
yeah,
Like
but
some of the guys that were in Jack's crew were at that high accent too.
right, like Alec Baldwin though, he kind of went back and forth. Like sometimes you could
Yeah,
tell he was trying to do the accent, and then other times he was just sounded like Alec Baldwin. I don't know. It was weird. Like I don't know if you noticed
yeah.
that.
In that scene, you didn't really do it like the way you couldn't really do an accent in that scene, so you had to overdo it with something else to compensate it, right?
It was like the certain things he said with the R's or whatever, right? The hard R's that they use, like, and sometimes when they say certain things, like it seems like
Yeah,
there's certain words you could hear he was using like a little bit of the accent, but not really. Like he wasn't trying to overdo it because I don't think he could do it justice, right? So, but it's one of those things like do it or don't do it at all. I feel, and that's why I think some people get mad at some of the accents in this because it's like there's that scene where Damon goes out to dinner with that woman and they fucking are going full blown like Boston accent in that scene where they're talking about attacking the cake that they ordered.
but
They're like,
he's hardcore too, isn't he?
he's from there as well. That's what I mean. He can pull it off, but then other people, like it seems like you can tell when certain people that can do it and can't are in the same scene together. Sometimes
Yeah.
it comes off really bad for the other actor because the guys like you could
Well,
tell
isn't it like from like one side of South Side Boston, and there would be another side like East Side
yeah,
Boston or whatever? Like it would be, they'd have different sort of slang accents.
yeah,
So some of them would sound different than the others too. So
yeah. I don't know. You're getting
right?
some feedback. You're getting some feedback again on your end again for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
Is it
It's
still
not too
there?
bad. Well, I don't know. A little bit.
I'm getting feedback.
No, I'm starting to hear like my voice a little bit on your end, like when I'm talking, like after the fact. There's like some audio kind of noise coming out from me. It's not bad. It's not bad. We can continue going. I just I noticed it a little.
I can't notice it, man.
Yeah.
I am only like, I don't notice it. I can't hear it that way.
Okay, so here's a big one. Best performance. I put down Nicholson.
How
I
can
have
you say
to.
no?
I think
No.
it's Jack Nicholson all the way. Like, don't get me wrong,
Well,
everybody did a great job. Like, even like the top billed actors, all of them did a great job. But I gotta go Jack Nicholson for me in this film. I just love his character.
but now, would you classify him as the best actor in that? Like an actor, he's just only the supporting role. So
Yeah,
if you
it's best
if you had to
performance.
pick out of the two, oh, it's best
It's
performance,
best
right?
performance. So it doesn't matter. You can be a guy that's in the film for 2 minutes if you think he killed it, right? Like for me, I wouldn't go that far, but for me, it's Wahlberg is from Dorchester, heavy
Yeah,
accent.
he has that show, no, like with his family, yeah, heavy accent.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it sounds like it's fake.
But that's what I
Or
mean. I think it sounds put on, but it's more so authentic that you can tell, right? Yeah. So best performance, like you would agree, Nicholson as well, or
yeah. And then, like I said, if it was like a for best actor or something like that, I think I'd pick something different. But at best performance overall, um, just because of the quotes, to be honest with you, and the scenes that he was in, he has the face too. Even just the way he comes out and says things, it just makes a movie. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah, he'd win my best performance. I have him written down too, but I thought about it afterwards, and I said if it was going to be performance or actor, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, who would I pick? And I think it would have been different if I would have chose that way, right?
All right. So what's aged the best in this movie? Yeah,
Age. See, that's what
you
I
go
didn't.
ahead.
I didn't. Pardon?
I said you go ahead with this one.
The age part. I think you want to go by just the way people Yeah, see, it's like that's the way I felt too.
Yeah, I always like Leo, and
But
I would agree this is a toss up between both of them in this film, but I gotta go Nicholson just because I think he plays a great bad guy. You hadn't really I can't recall seeing Nicholson like this kind of character. You know what I mean? So, um, he plays crazy a lot. He plays bad guys before, sure, but this kind of character, like this gangster type of character that he plays in this was kind of different, I think, than anything that I've seen him play. Really, like I'm sure maybe he's had a long career. There's a lot of movies of his that I've never seen, so I could be wrong when I say that. But for me, this is why I gave it to him though, because Leo kind of went on to play a lot of cool parts similar to this, like in his career after this, right? Which we'll get into, but yeah. So anyway, sorry, go ahead. Could you come up with any answers? What's aged the best in this film?
I think just the either the actings, the acting of the actors, or the actual. Are you talking about the scenery more?
Anything. So it's a pretty broad subject that you can category for sure. But this is a movie that's 14 years old, so you can say certain things like you said, like the way they filmed the movie could have aged good. Some of the references in the film could have aged good. It's a pretty broad kind of category, right? Like did anything stick out to you that's aged well over time? Because sometimes when you revisit movies that are like 15, 20 years old, you're like, woo, the effects in this movie have not aged well. You know what I mean? Or sometimes you're like, whoa, wow, this is actually aged pretty good, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that the directing was kind of and all that, like camera settings and stuff, for just a movie of that stature, like that type, instead of like, let's say a comic movie or something like that, or an animated movie. Just the way that they film it, and the
The,
way that they
the cinematography. The
yeah,
cinematography. Yeah.
was excellent, and
Mhm.
I think it was probably ahead of its time, because you can compare it to films like that Scorsese's just did recently, as he's gotten really old. This is 15 years later, right?
Mhm.
So 14, 15 years later. So uh, I think it can relate it up there with his most recent film. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So
Yeah, the cinematography was very good and it holds up for me as well. Yeah. Good one.
the scenery, I think the scenery, I thought that maybe the buildings, you could see how the condos were starting to go up and shit like that. That was about 15 years ago in the city down there, and I bet you if you take a look at this, the whole structure of it now and the whole way the city looks, it's probably a lot different. Even
Mhm.
though it's supposed to be based in, around that time too, but
Mhm.
15 years is a long way, so it's kind of, I think the cars are uh, pretty much the same. They age around. If we're talking about the same time, like 2006,
Mhm.
like everything looked all recent, even though it was kind of loosely based on an older situation, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I wrote down Matt Damon being an asshole.
that's simple.
He's such a prick in this movie, and like I think now when you think of Matt Damon, at least I don't see him as being this much of an asshole. So like when you see him in this movie, I think it's aged pretty well because it's just like, wow, like he's a straight up fucking dick in this movie. Like he's such a prick to that girlfriend of his in this film. And just in general, like he's such a cocksucker in this movie. And I don't think you see him do roles like that anymore where he's that much of a fucking prick. So I think it's aged pretty well seeing it now, seeing everything that we've seen Damon kind of do since then, because he picks weird roles. He doesn't always go for like the big kind of, you know what I mean? Like I find like he picks really strange movies
More
sometimes.
serious. Well,
Yeah, and
everything from that to like the Bourne films to
yeah,
uh, the other
all
one
over
there
the
with
map.
that.
All over the map, right? But that's I mean, then he'll make a bunch of weird films that are more like almost indie films or something like that, right? Like so it's
They turn
strange.
out
But,
almost better. Some of them, those indie films, right?
yeah.
Right. It's just funny. It's just he's almost like he's still trying to figure himself out as an actor.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Years.
Because when the Bourne movies came out, and we've talked about this before, that's something I need to maybe that's something I need to go. I've never watched those films, right? I just don't think of him as a badass, right? So like when I came out, I was like, that's kind of strange. I heard he does a good job in those movies though of portraying that. Yeah, for me, I just think he aged pretty good in this film. For me, I thought this is probably one of his better performances. So,
Yeah.
okay, what's aged the worst? I'll start this one off. I would say some of the gay racist jokes for sure. I don't care about it, but at the same time, it's like if you're looking at it now compared to maybe when it came out, it'd probably be more excusable then. They use the word Chinamen, like which is funny. But yeah, I think that stuff's maybe not aged well. The weird coke sex scene with Jack Nicholson, that was strange. That was a weird fucking scene. Yeah, I know I need to watch them. I have never I think I own them and I just have never watched them. But that weird scene with Jack Nicholson where he throws the coke and like they're all having sex and they're like in like a haze. He has like two hookers and there's like, yeah, it's strange.
He said something like enjoy until you're numb or something, or
yeah. Very that has not aged well. I remember seeing that the first time. I'm like, wow, look at this guy having coke, doing coke with all these whores. And then like now I watched it, I was like, I don't know, man. He's old here. He's throwing coke at whores. And it's like a weird the way they filmed it. Like it's really strange. Like I don't know. That whole scene was. I don't think it aged well for me. That whole scene was like
I was tripping out when I seen that scene at first. I thought it was at it, because I don't know if I seen when I was watching it on Netflix if it was the director's cut or if it was like.
Right.
I feel like there was little pieces missing of the movie. I don't know if that's me, like, but sometimes even now when I'm listening to some music on the Spotify there, I feel like there's pieces missing when they're like they've taken out words, they've edited certain words that you said that don't are not, don't age well this time, like certain words that don't like you said guineas and like we were saying guineas and all that stuff, right? It's the same.
Yeah. And then yeah, I think that's all I had. I just think some of the gay racist jokes that were made and that whole scene, the coke scene with with Nicholson just didn't age well for me. And you said that you basically said the same thing about some of the terms that they were using. That was it. That's all you had.
Yeah. For me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got.
That's what's next here. We got unanswerable questions. Anything that you feel that wasn't answered in the film. Things that you think about the characters after you watch a film that you think they didn't touch on, or just thoughts that you had on your own. You know what I mean? Like things they didn't have to address necessarily in the movie, but just things to think about, right? So what did you have, Jay?
Well, they give you a lot of things to think about in the movie, right? Throughout the movie that slowly kind of set themselves in motion. But the part that kind of pissed me off is at the end, right? When you don't know whose baby it is. Because Mr. Matt Damon couldn't get a hard on you. Remember they were saying, and she was always saying, that was kind of the hint, right? Mm-hmm. She was saying, oh, it happens to everybody. It's not that bad.
Right.
She's saying like they all say, right? It happens to everybody. They you always hear that line in the fucking, when it comes down to it, like just it's how they explain it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, oh, I got to go to work. But then he's looking at her and wondering I think he's wondering at the end at the funeral when he gets the award and all that stuff, and they bury Jack. Leo's character there, right? Mm-hmm. She's obviously not with Matt anymore, mm-hmm. and she's pregnant. She had just told him that she was pregnant.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's unanswerable. Like you said, yeah, we won't know.
That's the only thing I can kind of. I was trying to figure out something, right? That was else that was unanswerable, but most of the stuff ended up turning out.
Yeah.
Most of them ended up turning out leading into that answer, right? Eventually.
Well, one of the ones I had written down, and we can come up with an answer right now between the two of us. I don't think it's that unanswerable, but just something I was curious about was when the guy reveals to Leo at the end there, because it turns out I guess he was the actual rat. How he gave him the wrong location of the building to show up at, and then when he reveals as he's dying to him, he's like, "You know why I know that?" He's like, "Why? How come I didn't tell them?" And how come he didn't tell them? Why didn't he fucking reveal that Leo was a rat, right?
Yeah.
Right? So like,
they don't know if he was working or if he cared about him or if he knew his family.
right. So you could
right.
make your own assumption. It's not like it's totally unanswerable, but he was gonna tell him why he said, "You know why I didn't tell them," and then he just dies, right? He ends up dying, right? Because Leo doesn't like, he's telling him to shut the fuck up because he's sitting there dying, bleeding out, and he doesn't want him to like reveal that he was a rat. But it turns out that guy was a rat as well. That's what I mean. There's a lot of rats, right? So in this film, as you go on, you find out, right? So it wasn't just one isolated incident, right?
No,
So
it was yeah, exactly. So, and you find out who in the end is the real rat, right? So I mean,
my other one that I written down in the unanswerable questions was Matt Damon's girlfriend a hoe?
Well, you can consider that.
Just because I felt it was kind of wrong what she was doing. Like, Matt Damon was a piece of shit, but then why stay with him? Like, she was like, why if you're fucking Leo and like they both have weird situations going on. She seemed like a nice woman. Like, why was she staying with fucking Matt Damon? Like, it seemed odd to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, why? I don't know. It's weird.
There's another one actually I thought of now that you just said that. Is that, you know, when he's typing in and he's trying to figure out all the stuff at the end, this is where I had a hard time processing what was happening. So Matt Damon's character and Leonardo's character weren't related, were they at all?
I'm sorry, which characters? Matt Damon and Leo? No.
Not at all.
No.
Okay. I was trying to put that into a thing because I was trying to figure out how it worked, because so Matt Damon's character was the one that that met him in the beginning, obviously.
Right.
Leo's character is ultimately related to Frank.
Yeah.
His family is related to Frank somehow.
Right.
His uncle did work for him and stuff like that, right?
I'm sorry. Who's related? Sorry, repeat that again.
No, Leo's not related, but his family was part of that sort of mob thing, right?
No. So Leo's father, he said he tried.
No, but his uncle was. Sorry.
Yes. But his father, he tried to get him to work for him and he refused. And that's why when he says to Leo, he's like, your father could have been anything. He's like, you trying to say he was nothing? He's like, no. He's like, he could have fucking been something though, but instead he worked down at the airport. Like he's like, he fucking had a 9 to 5, right? Essentially. That's what he was trying to say, right? He's like, so yeah, that was their connection. And they were trying to say that Leo, when he was younger, he used to go to different parts of Boston and have to put on the accent more because he was in the harder part of Boston or whatever, like the South Side or whatever. They were trying to say he spent.
Mark Wahlberg said he had the 2 accents. He goes, "I bet you have the 2 accents." Yeah.
So that and even though he was giving him a hard time about that, he was like, we could use this like to work to our advantage. Like that's why they used him, because they're like, you're the perfect guy. You have a background. You hung around these people. You have family that know these people. Like you're the perfect person to put into this situation, right? So that's why. But yeah, they were but those other two weren't related. It seems that Damon's father died when he was young, and that's why took him under his wing. Exactly. And that's why he calls him dad at one point of the film when he calls him, which is weird.
Thing, which is another one that says, you're like, because he puts it together at the end, actually, Matt Damon a little, I think, because he says, he goes, he says something about you're banging all these women, but no kids.
Yeah.
And then he's putting it together. He's trying to think it. So he's not his father, but he's just. So he goes to shoot him, and boom, and gets him back, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that one was mine. I just want to know who this fucking babies.
Yeah, no worries. So we got a few
No,
left here. Nitpicks. What didn't you like in the film? Anything that bugged you about the film? Did you start off the last one, or did I? You can go ahead if you're ready for this.
go. I'm just looking where it is here.
Uh, I didn't like the whole Chinese deal storyline. I don't think it. I guess you could also say it didn't age well as well. I could have used that for didn't age well. The stupid microchip fucking thing, like some of the technology that they're referring to in 2006 that they were scared of, like what's going on. Yeah, don't get me wrong; those type of things I guess still exist today, but like it just seemed like a storyline that we've seen done so many times. So like I didn't really like that whole storyline. You know what? I'm gonna put that scratch that, not as the nitpick. I'm gonna put that in didn't age well. I just feel the whole microchip, like this weird microchip, and it didn't seem like Jack Nicholson would be a guy that's involved with the Chinese trying to secure microchips. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, why is this guy from Boston involved in this deal? It seemed weird. It just didn't hold up for me. I felt that whole Chinese storyline with the Chinese. I didn't think that held up well, especially compared to today. And then the death. I really did not like his death. I didn't like how he died. I thought that was a shitty death, especially for this character in this movie. It felt like so throwaway. Like I get it. Sometimes that's the way it happens, right? At least you least expect it. You just get capped for some stupidness. But like I didn't like the way he got shot in that whole cop bust with the Chinese deal. And then Damon just ends up taking him out at the end. But that part was okay. The Damon part, when he revealed to him that he's been working for the FBI, that made sense. But just the fact that he's bleeding out and dying because of that whole deal going tits up, I just didn't like. I felt that he deserved a better death than that. I don't know. I didn't. Watching it this time, it bugged me. I was like, the death was kind of weak. I felt in this for him. Compared to the death of like Leo, compared to the deaths of all the characters in that last scene, you know what I mean? Like even if he was in the mix for those last scenes, it would have been way better. But instead, he was off the playing field before you even got to those scenes, right? So like that was a little disappointing in the grand scheme of things. I felt. So I think that's my main nitpick is I didn't really dig that so much. Otherwise, yeah. And they're just sloppy. Some of the things that they were doing, if they're cops, were sloppy. Like they're wearing no gloves, handling evidence at some points of this film. So yeah, some things like that, right? Just again, nitpicks. Things.
Wear no gloves.
What's that?
Wait, would it have been so wrong 5 years ago not to wear gloves? Come on.
No, but they're cops. Like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, Dave, like he's like, yeah. Anyways, go on. What are your nitpicks for the film?
No, you know what? I have it too. It's just how you were because I had to figure it out. It was explaining how I just didn't like the type of like prick that like sorry shit fucked up role that Matt Damon had. I just felt like he could have done a better job at it. It was just irritating. It felt like through the whole movie.
Oh, so you didn't like him being an asshole in this film. You didn't like him being an asshole that he was. Okay,
no,
interesting.
Because I've been watching him recently and I just didn't like that style of him, man. I just thought it could have it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
He should have been, he was supposed to be the more serious. He was trying to play the more serious cop, trying to make sure everything was okay and safe.
Like, did you actually have this written down, or is this off the fly right now that you're coming up with this? That's interesting. No, that's interesting. Just because what I said I thought that aged well because we don't see him like that anymore. But for you, you were bothered by it. You're like, why is he such an asshole?
Well, that's what I was saying too. That's why I try not to get too much into what didn't age because that's the reverse for me because I like him in the style that he plays now, right? Yeah. So I didn't like that,
It makes sense.
Character and it's not like when you see somebody like Leo and he plays that sketch stuff. That is a good style, right? But yeah. So we'll see what you're trying to say.
No, well, Mike was saying corrupt cops. Yeah, that still exists to this day. So I that's interesting though that you felt the complete opposite. I felt it aged well because I liked seeing him in a role like that because you don't see that so often. But you have seen him in so many roles that are not like that you kind of were taken aback by that. You're like, I don't like this, right? That's
like the 6th movie this year probably I've seen him because I did watch a bunch of newer ones, right? Like I watched that whole series.
Did you end up watching that one that I talked to you about? The fucking car one. He's the best in that film. Ford v Ferrari. Did you watch that?
No, I didn't get. I didn't
Oh,
watch that.
you gotta watch it. Ford v Ferrari, man. Great. It's honestly the best thing I think I've seen Matt Damon, and he killed that movie for me. Like I was like, wow, he's great.
Well, that's
Yeah.
one of his newer ones, so maybe I like it. Maybe I like it. I don't know if he was a prick in that one. Was he?
He's a smart ass, but he's good. He's a good guy. Yeah, he's not a bad guy. He's not like this in this film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it for that one. I don't really have.
Yeah, he was just being picky at these weird times. I just didn't think it was, you know, when it came down. I know he was trying to be Snoopy and he was trying to do it undercover, but you know, I just didn't like the way. Like I said, I thought his accent was a little much too. I didn't think it was real, but it is, right? Like it is. I know his accent is real, right? Like so.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the last two categories here, big ones, big categories here for the flick. Career peak. Now this one is basically you highlight an actor that you thought that this was either the peak of their career or the start of or in the middle of like a fantastic run that actor had during that period of time in their career. So you could say that for anybody. You could say that for director. You could say that you could be like, oh, Martin Scorsese, this was his career peak. A lot of the times you can highlight the person in this category for it being, like I said, this may have been like the best thing he had done up to that point, and then afterwards they did fuck all. Like they went like straight down in terms of the quality of their stuff. Or you could say that this was in the middle of a fantastic run that this specific person had. So you want to start us off with this, Jay?
Yeah, I think it was Leo in this one, wasn't it? He was in the middle, and he was kind of in the middle of his career.
Solve it. That's mine. I wrote Leo as well.
I personally think that. I mean, I think Matt Damon was at the beginning, and he was kind of starting to build his way up.
Yeah, but with Damon, I still feel that, like, again, for me, a little bit more inconsistent in terms of like the roles he picked. But listen to this. Like, here's where Leo is. Okay, this was made in 2006. Listen to his credits right now. Okay, like I agree, it's undeniably Leo. This is his career peak, or at least on the way to his peak of his career, like how good he was, right? So, okay, so before this, you know, he's in Gangs of New York. Okay, so he's worked with Scorsese a few times before this, right? So you got Gangs of New York, and then you got was Scorsese. Then you got Catch Me If You Can. Then you got The Aviator, another Scorsese film. Okay, that's from 2004, 2006. The Departed. So they worked on The Aviator before The Departed, and Catch Me If You Can and Gangs of New York was in 2002. Okay, so that's Departed. Then after The Departed, Blood Diamond, Body of Lies, Revolutionary Road. I'm not as familiar with that one. Shutter Island, Inception, J. Edgar, and then he went on to Django Unchained, The Great Gatsby, Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, so like the next 6-7 years, he's putting out at least one or two fucking fantastic films from this point on. So like, look at that. Like, look
at the Titanic.
Oh, that's old. That's way older. But like, look, like, but like, even the couple of films that he did with Scorsese leading up to this film and after, right? Like, it's like, yeah. And then, you know, I can keep going, but like, yeah, this was the start, very early in the start of the run, where I think that people really kind of put him up there amongst like some of the best actors. You know what I mean? If they hadn't already up to this point, like he the roles he chose after this, like there's a lot of good films there, man. Blood Diamond was fucking awesome. Body of Lies was good. Shutter Island. I know a lot of people hated that movie. I liked it. Inception. I love Inception.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Shutter Island.
I liked it. I know a lot of people don't like it. Same with Inception. But then, you know, Django, he was crazy in Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, we're talking about like the next, you know, 2 years prior to this film and like the next 6 years, he just like his credits are amazing, right? So, yeah, I definitely gotta give it to Leo as well on the career peak.
Even before that, I mean, he wasn't completely at the beginning of his career. Like he still had quite a few good films that he had come out of, that he had started out with as a younger kid.
Yeah.
But as he's getting older and becoming a better actor, working with better people, and you start to see the progress, right?
Yeah. And Nicholson, this is at the end of his career. Like he's past
Yeah.
his prime. He's past his prime at this point. So as much as I like him in this film, I would never say this was his career peak, right?
That's why they
So
just gave a bunch of coke and fucking hookers in the movie.
yeah, so
They said
I would
you're not
never
black.
and yeah, Damon, you can make an argument for Damon, but I still think it's Leo, for sure.
For Mark Wahlberg, I think it would have had to be sort of the beginning.
No, I just don't think you can say it for well, yeah, absolutely. That did at the time. I just mean like he's become such a better actor since then. That was just like a huge film because it was just a huge film, right? Yeah, but I agree.
In the Eating Gilbert Grape, all those fucking things as a kid,
Yeah.
Young Gun, that Basketball Diaries, he played a great actor.
Yeah.
Right. Even
but like,
look, been through this for years.
But if you look at a lot of these films that came prior to this is prior to Leo cool guy role, right? Like he's in a lot of like love type, these like Romeo and Juliet, Titanic, The Man in the Iron Mask, The Beach. Like these are all like more like you know what I mean? Like yeah. And then he started working with Scorsese, and then he's fucking Wolf of Wall Street, doing drugs and fucking whores and all that. You know what I mean? Like so it's
you meet Martin Scorsese, you meet everybody. You start meeting all the drugs. You start meeting all the actors, actresses.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. So there's just I think it's just a big difference kind of where he went in the roles he chose after that. Like I think he always chose really good, interesting roles like from this point on, right? Yeah. Yeah, what's Eating Gilbert great movie. I'm not trying to shit on anything he did prior to this, but I think it really solidified, like he grew as an actor during this period in time. And I think The Departed is part of that period, at least for me, like in terms of the roles he was picking, right? So okay, so lastly, who won the movie? And basically who won the movie is awarded to who overall benefited the most essentially from this film. Like I don't know. I think Scorsese did a great job directing this film. I wanted to give it to Scorsese, but I got to give it to Nicholson again. I just think that, again, for this being one of his last few films that he did, he doesn't act to this day. Like I think he came out with a couple of films after this one. I'm going to pull up his IMDb here. And once you start talking, Jay, I'm going to pull it up just to check. But he, I got to give it to Jack Nicholson. I think this is just like one of those performances towards the end of his career. I think that we know that still sticks out to me, and he's the main reason I think in this film why I enjoy watching it. Right. So I think I got to give it to Nicholson. Who do you think won the film overall?
Yeah, he has to be. He's the one who made. He's the one. That's probably. I think he was the only one. Didn't he? The only one that won the award for. And he won it for best supporting actor. Or was he nominated?
May have been nominated.
He's supporting every scene that starts off. Really, or he's
ending
every scene that starts off.
So after The Departed, he was in The Bucket List. Okay, a year later. He had a small I'm Still Here. Oh yeah, that's that fucking Joaquin Phoenix. So he must have had like a small bit part where he showed up in that movie. That was a small part. And then he's in a movie called How Do You Know in 2010. So that's 2006 The Departed, 2007 Bucket List, and then some movie I've never even fucking heard of in 2010. That was it. He hasn't acted since then. So like this is like, and I know a lot of people like The Bucket List, that movie. I think it's fine. But like that, this has got to be like one of it, like again at the end of his career here, right? So like this is a pretty big film for him. So I gotta give it to him. I gotta give it up to him for this. Like definitely probably his best performance. I think at the end before he retired. For me, he won the movie. I think it's undeniable. Jay, you agree?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. That's why I said he because of the supporting that he did and all that he helped make the movie what it was. Plus, with his skill set at that age, just bringing that type of knowledge to the other actors too. I think they wanted to recast they wanted to try what's his name, Robert De Niro, as his part,
Hmm.
right? And then they figured it out because I don't think originally he wanted to do it unless he had a part in it, saying and doing what he wanted to do in it.
Um,
Jack Nicholson originally.
so he was nominated for a Golden Globe in 2007 for Best Supporting Role in a Motion Picture for The Departed.
Yeah, so he was nominated. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. He didn't win. I think. Nominee. Yeah, he didn't win. He
I think
won.
Scorsese that won something, right?
Maybe. Let me look. I'm just gonna look up The Departed.
I have my tablet here, but it's gonna brighten up my whole
Okay.
face.
Yeah. I don't see anything.
No, I thought it was for an Oscar or some shit. I don't know.
Hold on.
I might have been reading it right, maybe because if it's highlighted, he is, or if it's not, he didn't get it.
And yeah, these are the type of things I want to get into the rhythm of actually having down prior to recording these in future episodes. Like we have to do
the right specific times.
Not that this takes long to check, but at the same time, yeah, it's just no. So you could say Scorsese did win the film. He did win the Academy Award in 2007 for Best Director for this film. He did.
I thought he won something.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Huh. So I mean,
every time he puts something out there, dude, it's just about.
I'm glad I was going back and forth with him and Nicholson. Then he may not have gotten the recognition in Nicholson, but still, I'm going to stick with my answer. But yeah, I mean, it looks like he kind of definitely won the film. Then if he won an award for the direct.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For directing this
one. But it's still like if you're going for acting, you're gonna say Jack Nicholson for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he steals just about every film he's in.
And that's that. I don't know unless Jay, you got anything else to add to that. That's The Departed, everybody. Please give us your feedback. Any of you guys that checked out the that was in the chat here today or end up watching this video, let us know because we want to. If any suggestions about format, if we can change the format up differently, or anything you liked in particular about this this approach that we took. Maybe if I could put up the categories maybe on the screen next time for you guys. And it's good. We want to give people a chance. We want to announce the shows ahead of time so people could watch the films as well and come here and take part in the discussion with us, right? Because what the fuck do we know, right? We we have our opinions. We have our opinions. But everybody does, and we're open to hearing from you guys as well, too, right, Jay? So anything else you want to add?
Well, maybe we should get them started by letting them know that we'll do another one, and we'll tell them what it is, and they can watch it if they haven't watched it already, and have their questions and stuff if they have any answers. You know what I mean? If they want to take part in it.
Yeah.
Right.
So our next film is Fight Club, everybody. We've decided on. Yeah. So we'll announce when we're gonna record it ahead of time on our regular show and through our posts on social media. But the next movie that we're gonna do is Fight Club. So we'll give you guys ample time to kind of watch it once we set a date, but it's gonna be most likely maybe 2 or 3 weeks from now. So you got time. Take a moment to watch it and come and join in the discussion with us for the next one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I mean, that makes it more fun, I think, for everybody involved. But if you couldn't do it, you couldn't do it. Not a problem. So thanks for tuning in still. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it would be a good one to watch.
Rob, look at this. Mike actually listened to some Rush. Well, maybe you could comment on that on Monday, Mike.
A few years ago.
Maybe you could let us know if you enjoyed it or not. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, Fight Club, guys. Fight Club's the next movie we're gonna watch, and yeah, I'm interested in looking forward to that one. I think again, that's one of those films that the first time I watched it, was a big mindfuck and reveal. Now that we know kind of what's coming, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm interested to see how it's aged. You know what I mean? Like, because at the time it was a crazy fucking film, but now at this time we've seen it so many times, maybe it's not as big of a deal at this point, right? I don't know.
Pay attention to it because it's still a mind fuck. I mean, regardless of how many times. Yeah.
Rob's wondering, he got on pins and needles here. He's like, "Oh, what did you think of the Rush songs?" That is a great movie. Listen, I would be fine with just doing a whole fucking slew of Scorsese films. I'm good with that. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. So JT picked Fight Club for the next pick. I threw it out there as a suggestion, but he's like, "Yeah, let's do that one." But after this, I'm probably gonna pick like a Tarantino movie. By the way, like the next one we do after that, probably gonna be like a Tarantino flick or Casino. I love Casino. That's a good one too.
Get into some Tarantino racism movies.
Not bad. Well, that means he doesn't like it, Rob. These guys are up in the chat. Rob's crying about his Rush.
His wife's laughing at him.
Yeah, I love Casino. I definitely would do that one. I mean, I would do Goodfellas. Fuck. The problem is, I could talk for 3 hours on my own for Goodfellas. Like, you know, I don't even need Jay here. I mean, Jay. See you later, man. I'm talking about Goodfellas. Hey, let me recite every scene in the movie to you.
Yeah, you probably could. There's probably a few movies that you could do that with.
But anyways, yeah. All right, Mike, Rob, thanks for hanging in the chat here tonight. We'll see you Monday. We'll see you guys Monday. Oh. Also, as an quick update, I think you guys are working behind the scenes, you and Rob, JT, right? For doing that show.
Yeah, I'm trying to work with Pete. I'm trying to work with Pete too. So I don't know. Like we're trying to work all those out. So take care, Mike. We're trying to work all those out and see what goes on from there. I tried to get the other guys from to do one, and they were debating on it yesterday when I talked to them. But we'll see. Baller and Mike up there. We'll see what happens with them. I just don't think Mike likes to be on camera.
Oh, he can be in the dark if he really wants to, but he just needs to get over it. It's literally just going to be us sitting here, right? It's not a big deal. You just got to let them know, right?
That's what I keep
or like you
I don't
said,
think Jay has a problem, my buddy. Other one.
That's what I was trying to tell you. If he feels uncomfortable, just have you there with him. Like, I'm fine with you being there, right? If that helps things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What video? Well, Mike, send it to us. Send it to us if you got something there. If you were talking about something. If not, like I said, I'll send you the topics for Monday tomorrow. Oh, okay. Yeah. No. We weren't talking about you. He's talking about his other buddy. His name's also Mike.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see the link, Mike.
There's too many Mikes.
No. Too many Mikes. There's always a lot of Mikes. No, he's talking about his other buddy, Mike, who we're trying to get on the show for a battle. Okay, yeah, send it to me on Facebook, Mike, and I'm gonna send and I'm gonna send you any topics tomorrow that we might talk about on Monday. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. I think this went well, Jay. You think it went good enough to continue another episode?
Yeah, we'll tweak. Yeah, we'll have to tweak up those questions and stuff like that, and see what other things we can come up with.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, everybody.
Peace out.